Hi, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about renting a car abroad, using your credit card insurance to do that, and also rental car scams while abroad. So, this is a three-part feature. And the reason I'm going to talk about this is this has actually happened to me twice. So, I want to go through kind of the details of what's happened to me and what I did and what the result was. So, let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Kyria, and I've traveled to over 60 countries in the last 26 years. And in 2024, I retired early to travel the world full time. As much as I normally use public transportation or trains or things like that, I have rented a car several times while abroad, and many times I've had absolutely no issues. However, I've had 2 times where the same exact thing has happened to me. And so I wanted to bring it to your attention. So hopefully, if you are thinking about renting a car, you'll be aware of this possible scam. So what it is the car rental company claims damage to the car that you didn't do. And there's not really a lot you can do about it in most cases. I take pictures of the car, but let me actually back up and start from the beginning. The first time this happened to me, I rented a car in Germany from Frankfurt, from Hertz. And it was one of those really small rental places where there's only a few cars and they're only open limited hours. And so what happened was when I returned it, it was closed, but you could just leave your keys in the drop box. So I left my keys in the drop box, I parked the car, and I took some pictures of the outside of the car because I know that I'm supposed to do that. However, a few weeks later, I got a bill in the mail for about $1,400 for damages that I had incurred while driving the car, which, by the way, I had never incurred any damages. I had never scratched against a bush or a tree. I had never had anybody scratch against me. And just to be clear here, the damages that they were claiming were on the roof of the car. So it's not like maybe someone parked and they scratched me on the side or the bumper or something like that. It's on the roof of the car, which is not a place that you're going to easily get scratches on the car when you're driving it. So, of course, I didn't have a picture of the roof of the car, which was silly of me. You really should take a picture of the entire car. But I didn't take a picture of the roof. Or I had taken a picture from, like high up, but not high enough up that it showed the entire top of the roof. So, at this time, I was living in the U.S. and I had car insurance in the U.S. And first thing I did was I got in touch with my car insurance in the U.S. And of course, what they told me was that it wasn't eligible because it was an international rental. And so, fine, whatever. So I went to my credit card. I had put the rental on an Amex. And I went to Amex and I said, look, this is what's happening. My insurance isn't going to pay it. And they actually came back really fast and ended up reimbursing me fairly quickly. And this was a long time ago, so my memory might be a little fuzzy now, but I think they came back within a few weeks and paid me, which I was very surprised and pleased. However, before that, I'd argued back and forth with the rental company first because I was like, there's no way. I have a picture of the top of the car, and they pretty much just ignored me. I mean, they pretty much sent my email into like La La Land or whatever and pretty much just ignored me. And so then I started dealing with my own my own insurance in California, and they pretty much shot me down, but I had to go back and forth with them quite a while. So I would say by the time I contacted Amex, this was like probably a 6 or 8 week or maybe even longer thing that had been going on. And Amex, I guess just maybe because the other ones had taken so long and nothing had come of it, and then Amex kind of was quicker, they seemed great. I mean, I would say they were great. And they paid in full, basically, like no questions, well, not very many questions asked. I had to submit the paperwork. So what you have to submit basically is you have to submit your rental car bill, the final bill, any claim that the rental car has given to you saying these are the costs of the damages, any, what's the other thing? Any documentation that the rental company has provided with you, as well as I had to provided something from my insurance that said that they weren't going to cover it so that Amex wouldn't double book, basically. So, but it was fairly easy. You just email it to them and it was taken care of within a few weeks. So that one was a good experience as far as that went. However, just recently, I rented a car in Spain, and this one was at the train station. So the car rental place was downstairs in the basement, like where all the other cars are parked. So it's like the parking garage, plus there's some rental cars there. So when I got there to pick up the car, I took pictures and a video of the entire thing all the way around it and the roof, because I knew that better this time. And I had asked the lady at the rental company. So the thing is the check-in desk, like where you got the car and paid for it and everything, was up in the train station. And then you went by yourself with the keys down to the parking lot. You looked at the car, and I asked her, because I was going to go down there by myself, what happens if there's more damages than it shows on this, rental waiver or whatever. And she goes, oh, just take a picture of it and we'll deal with it. So I took a picture of the entire car, took videos of the entire car with my phone and my GoPro, but it was a little dark in the garage. And so, I don't know if you know much about a GoPro, but the GoPro doesn't take very good pictures in low light. Anyway, so I had the car for a week or a week and a half, and when I returned it, same thing, there was no attendant to check me out. So I parked the car and I went back up to the train station and I gave the lady the keys. She checked me out, all good. A couple weeks later, I get an email saying that they're charging me, this time it was about $550. And of course, all the documentation, the first time was all in German, and this time it was all in Spanish. So I'm trying to translate it to see where exactly are they saying the damages are. And guess where they said the damages were? The roof. And I looked at the roof. Because I've been through this before. I know the drill. But the garage had been very dark. And so I really didn't get very good pictures, which is stupid of me. I know, it's stupid of me. And so I don't know if the scratches were there before or if the scam is that they actually scratch it after you turn it in, which doesn't seem like that would make any sense, but whatever. Anyway, they claimed that there were scratches on the roof again. And so this time I went back and forth with the rental company again, and they basically, their policy is to just say, sorry, there's nothing we can do. The other thing that really chaps my hide is they not only charge you for the damages, but they charge you for the time that the car was out of service. So, for the damages was like $300. The car out of service was like $100. And then administrative fees to process it. And then they put tax on top of it, on top of those things. So it's just anyway. So I got in touch with Amex, and the way that you do it now, so back the last time I just sent emails to Amex. This time I had to actually go onto a separate website from my American Express website, which is like a claims website, and you submit a claim and you have to download all the documents as PDFs into the system. And so then I did that, no problem. So I got charged by the rental company on March 22nd, and I went back and forth with them for a little while. I finally ended up putting the claim in with Amex on April 5th or something like that. And basically they say, oh, it's going to be, 14-day processing or review or whatever. So 14 days goes by, nothing happens. Finally, I get it's a form email that basically says, we're processing your claim, but we need additional documentation from you. And it has this list, and it's basically the list of everything that I had already submitted. So I responded to that email and I said, I've already submitted all this stuff via the portal, right? They don't respond back. There's not a person, I don't think. I don't really know, actually. All that happens is nothing. And then 3 weeks later, you get another form email that says, we're processing your claim, but we still require these documents from you. And it's the same documents again. So then I responded again and said, I've already submitted these documents. And then 3 weeks later, I got another email. Of course, the definition of stupidity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But I didn't want to call them because I'm abroad and I didn't want to sit on the phone on hold forever. Anyway, that was silly of me. So what I did was I sent an email, I resent the documents, I numbered them all, I explained the numbers in the email. Document 1 is this thing that you're asking for, XYZ. Document 2 is this thing that you're asking for. And again, I got another email back saying, we still haven't received the documents. So I finally called them, which I should have just done at the beginning. Basically, after the first email came in, I should have just called them. And I got a really nice guy. He wasn't the adjuster. He was just a guy answering the phone. And he pulled up my information and said, oh yeah, it looks like you've submitted all the documents that are requested. So it's going to take another 10 days to process your claim, and then we'll come back to you and let you know. So 10 days later, roughly, I did get an email, and I thought, oh, it's another form email. And I opened it up and it said, congratulations, we are going to reimburse you this amount. And so in the end, they did come through. It just took a little while. And like I said, I should have just called them in the first place, and it probably would have been a lot faster. So that was really my fault. But I do suggest, if this is something that you have to go through, definitely be very thorough with the numbering and the explanation, because I think the adjuster, when you first submit the claim, they just look at it and like barely glance it over, and it's all in Spanish. They probably were like, this is in a different language, like I'm not gonna even try to read it. Who knows what they're thinking? But basically I would say be thorough, follow up, and if you can, just list number one is the final bill from the rental company. Number two is the, blah, 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 and make sure they correspond. And I think being organized like that definitely helps, because then when you call the guy, you can say, look, like I said, document one, you guys are asking for the final bill from the rental company. That's document one, because then he can look and say, oh yeah, actually, great, check, check. So I think that helps a lot. And then just call, and don't waste your time emailing back and forth, because it's just a bot or whatever. It's a bot that doesn't even respond with a thoughtful answer at all. It's not even as good as AI. It's just a repeat of the same email from the last time. So I'm editing this video, and I forgot to mention one other thing. When you go to rent the car, not only do you need to make sure you take pictures of every angle, including the roof, but make sure that you totally decline the loss and damage waiver that the car rental company offers you. You have to completely decline it. And of course, make sure that the credit card that you're using has rental insurance on it. And you should read all the fine print just to make sure there's no things that you're missing, because you definitely don't want to be caught short not having any insurance, for sure. The other thing I often do is I actually normally carry liability insurance, which basically all that does is you don't get collision because you don't have a car. So I don't have a car. But if you're driving in anyone else's car and you get in an accident, it covers you for liabilities. However, when you rent a car, usually the rental covers the liabilities, and then your credit card would cover the loss and damage, the collision part of it. But if you're in the US, you have to be careful because the rules may be a little bit different. The liability insurance is called non-owner liability insurance, and it costs about $220 for me a year. And so obviously that will differ depending on how old you are and what your driving record is like and what state you live in and all that other stuff. But yeah, mine is about $220 a year for full liability in the United States. So if you're out of the States, it doesn't cover you anymore, which is why I actually canceled it this year, since I wasn't going to be in the States enough to really make it worth my while. You can get it for short term as well. So mine would bill me just by the month, which is about $25. So it's a little more expensive if you're just getting it monthly. But if you're only going to be home for a little while, you could do that as a kind of stopgap for the time that you're in the US. Anyway, if you've ever gone through this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments and hear what your experience was. And if you have any suggestions or questions or comments about it, leave them down below. And once again, thank you very much for watching, and happy travels.